intuitive genius and how can we awaken it? This will be our topic in today's video of the Maverick Mystic Arts podcast. So to begin with, we want to look at a basic framework, and from there we can start pulling these things apart. The basic framework we'll use is the 4 layers, 4 worlds that we work in. The layer of the physical, the astral, the mental, and of course the Akashic and spiritual. So genius, as it might relate to the physical, would be genius of body consciousness. These would be people who have an innate proclivity to physical activity, incredible spatial awareness, situational awareness to the environment. These would be the types of people who are very gifted at any athletics. You can go into any athletic domain and you're simply able to carry out that activity at a high level right off the bat. And this is applied to, say, you're riding a motorbike in Bangkok traffic. Whatever the activity is, the physical expression and the ability to know what's happening around you and conduct and organize your body in relation to the environment is at a high level, and this is quite innate. So maybe you have a physical genius that is baked into you. This applies to all body skills. And of course, these 4 layers can overlap in different ways, which we'll get to. So we have physical, we have astral. The astral would be to artistic, creative expression, artistic feeling expression. And this could be carried out through a musical understanding, through writing, through poetry, of course, through the body, maybe through dance. Physical activities can be very artistically expressive as well. Say with Tai Chi, with dance. Dance is a big one. So you can explore this from that paradigm. And this really has to do with the expressive ability, the ability to articulate through any paradigm the astral energies that are at play. And just because, say, a writer might be able to articulate through the word, or the written word, or a poet might be able to articulate through the written word, maybe an orator can articulate quite effectively through the spoken word. This would still have to do with the expression of feeling at this layer. Now, of course, this ties into the physical. If you're going to express feeling, energy, and emotion through, say, music, you'd have to have the physical skill of playing that instrument, the physical skill of being able to use your voice, the physical skill of being able to carry out that expression at whatever domain you're going to carry it out in. And the more developed the physical skill is in relation to that artistic talent, the more easily that artistry can then express through that physical domain. So this brings us to the next phase, which would be the mental aspect, or the next compartment here. This is the mental. And when we're looking at the mental expression, we usually are looking at mental processing speed. Mental genius can very often be related to the speed of the mind and its ability to move around. Very strong air element, right? Speed of movement, the processing of information, and the carrying out of this processing can often be done through interest in technologies, interest in mental fantasy, fantasizing potentials, thought experiments, like, Einstein in physics famously came up with his theories through these mental explorations, these mental fantasizings. So that would be the mental. And of course, the spiritual, we have a proclivity towards a universal law. And this is developed, it's what we develop through the initiation process in Hermetic work and in most spiritual practices. So we can look at universal law as an orientation towards absolute truth. And this is that deep, deep, deep curiosity that every high-level spiritual practitioner tends to have. So most tend to have this deep curiosity, which is there because the orientation is this gravitational pull, this suction towards absolute truth, the thing behind the thing behind the thing behind the thing. And if the orientation is towards truth, then universal law, as it plays out, is the expression of that truth. So we have these 4 layers: physical, astral, mental, and spiritual genius. And all of these layers can intermingle, but often don't. So you might have a strong orientation to one of these layers. That's where your innate skill and talent takes its place and carries itself forward into the world. And this can be quite separate from the other ones. So very often you find people who are strong with mental genius are physically not very gifted. The body consciousness is quite atrophied. So these people don't know where they are in space very well. Posturally, everything's kind of locked up, crunched in, locked up. And this is to help direct the energy towards the mind, direct the vital energy, the life force towards the mind, so that the mind has that energy to carry out the processing and activities that take place there. And you'll notice this with quite intelligent people. They tend to have similar body types. Not always, but there is a strong tendency there. So these don't always express at all layers with the same amount of focus. Now, how do we get there, right? How do we get to this intuitive aspect coming through? Because you might say, okay, well, yeah, maybe I'm good at writing, or maybe I'm good at being a physical actor in the physical plane. Maybe I have a spiritual orientation. Maybe I'm a musician, whatever, but how does this relate? How do we get the intuition, the light of the intuition, and that inspiration to come through? In the beginning, this is done through the physical carrying out of that activity. And I would include even in the mental, the thinking paradigms as an expression of becoming. You're working the yang phase of the energy, the yang phase of articulation. So maybe you're carrying out a thought experiment and you're working through this activity. This is the same as initiation into Hermetics. We have working with thought streams as part of the concentration exercises. You follow a stream of thought. You restrict everything to that thought stream, and you carry out the activity phase of that thought stream. As we carry out any activity, this could be musical, mental, physical, astral, physical, mental. As we carry out any activity, over time, we start to tap into the emptiness beneath that. And this is done initially through concentration and coherence that evolves through that activity. So let's say you're crafting, making jewelry or woodworking. Your hands are busy, the body is engaging in an activity. And the activity is related usually to some type of astral energy. Maybe there's a mental framework of something specific that you're trying to create. There's an image there, and you're going to create that. So because there is activity taking place at each of these layers in one way or another, over time, through that, we start to find coherence and focus, concentration, consolidation within what we're doing. The static of the mind starts to fade away. The static of extraneous thought that is not of that particular thought stream. Extraneous astral energy that is not of that particular astral stream. Extraneous physical, perturbations that aren't of that particular activity. These all start to fade away. And the concentration that develops from this leads to the doorway, or through the doorway of stillness, of silence, underneath the activity we're doing, which takes us through the Akasha. And through the Akashic bridge, the light of the intuition, that inspired light of the intuition, passes through the Akasha and starts to facilitate that inspiration through the activity that we are engaging in. And this is where you get incredible inventiveness, this spark of genius that, boom, suddenly everything lights up. And we have these ideas that we never would have had otherwise. We have these expressions, say, astrally from, an artistic standpoint, a musical standpoint, these ideas, these riffs that we never would have had otherwise. And of course, physically, we engage in physical action that would be very difficult to plan and practice and carry out. So this spontaneous expression starts to occur as inspired by light at each layer of genius. This is where the genius starts to express itself through whatever paradigm or layer we're exploring. Now, this applies the framework of finding the stillness underneath what we're doing. Just as any spiritual exercise is an act of working the yang phase of that exercise, the form of that exercise, and uncovering the Akasha underneath, and that becomes a doorway to the light of the spirit. The same can be said for any activity that we carry out in normal day-to-day life, and any talents that we might have. We can use these as doorways to the light of the spirit, doorways to stillness and infinity. So we have all these layers, and we have this concentration that we're developing, and we have the realization that comes through the emptiness. Because all activities offer a doorway to stillness and intuition, the potential to harvest the stillness and to observe and reorient to the intuitive light that comes through, it's present with all these different activities and any activity. Now, because we're working with this, the question might arise, are some objects of activity able to reflect a type of Akasha, a type of emptiness, a type of stillness that allows for a spiritual light to come through, an intuitive light to come through, that inspired light to come through, that is more conducive to the spiritual path? Can some activities reflect an Akashic stillness that is more conducive to spiritual light coming through? And at some layers, the answer is yes, and at some, eventually, probably no. But we will explore that more coming up here. Okay, so in review, we are looking at awakening the intuitive genius. We have the 4 layers of physical, astral, mental, and spiritual. We have the different activities that take place at those different layers of vibration. Of course, there can be overlap. We have the consolidation of concentration within each of those layers of activity. Through that consolidation of concentration, that opens up the Akasha due to the stillness and concentrated coherence that occurs there. And through that emptiness and Akasha, we have the inspired light that can flow through that bridge and light up the intuitive genius at each and any layer that we're working with. If you're interested in training, check out the website for upcoming courses and retreats. Thanks for your time and have fun. Practice. Bye.